everybody. We are back with a little bit of combat. Where we left things with the exploration video was that our devout cleric Dareth and our swarthy, swarthy? I don't know, piratical pirate Jarlek were just finishing. They had encountered a They had arrived in the Durga settlement and had just started exploring, looking for a red-haired woman named Lena, and had just started exploring this building here with a hearth burning inside when they discovered a group of rabid pygmies eating a corpse inside and were just attacked. And one thing I wanted to note, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, is that when you do have combat, it can start in a number of different ways. The normal flow of combat is to start with a reaction check, or rather a reaction roll. Let me see if I can get to the rules for that. So here I am in the combat section of the manual. You'll see that there's before the this algorithm is quite the thing, but you can see that the encounter phase can either go down to a reaction roll, which can lead to combat, or you can just go directly into combat. I'm not going to cover the reaction roll. It's not very difficult. You basically just do a roll and compare with this reaction on the bottom of the card. You see it says reactions down there: 1 to 3, 4 to 6 bribe, 7 to 10 fight. That basically, it's supposed to simulate like you come across a group of enemies in the wild. They may have different dispositions. Flee means that they are afraid of you and they're likely to run away. Bribe means that you can bribe them with something. In this case, and it's custom to the enemy. This one is you can bribe with 2 food and avoid the fight, or you can fight. So, and you always have the option to fight, even if you were bribing, for example, or that they were in a position to bribe. So, but this would be the normal flow. You would do reaction first, and that might result in combat, and it's custom per enemy. But in our case, this is important to note. When we went to clue 58, let me go back there real quick. It said draw standard enemy 9 and combat them. So when it says combat them versus encounter them, combat them means you go straight to combat. So these pygmies were not in a place of negotiation. They were not afraid of us. We invaded their feasting and they just turned and attack us. So we basically skip the reaction when we go straight to fighting. So how do we set up a fight? Well, I mentioned it in my last video, but the first thing you do is you look at uh, the location that you're in. So we're in the small house here in the Sturgis settlement, and this layout right here is how you're going to set up the fight. So you'll see it can vary. I mean, it will vary for every location, but you're going to pay attention to what is the blue tile and what are the black tiles. Now, obviously, you can see some of these are more complicated formations. This is a small house, so it'll be very simple. There's basically 2 tiles. There's a blue tile and a black tile. The blue tile is always the entrance tile. That's um, the location that your characters are coming in from. And it does make some thematic sense, like if you were in an outdoor area and you're coming in from the west side, uh, then you might enter on one entrance. If you're coming from another side, you're supposed to enter from the side that you're actually narratively coming in from, the top, the bottom, the sides, etc. Um, but you can sometimes have options. So for example, well, in any case, I'm going to start just simple. We're in this place with 2 tiles. So the way this works, there's a set of indoor tiles and outdoor tiles. The actual board game itself will have quite a few more. I think they're planning like 48 different tiles if you get the add-on. These tiles are very generic, so indoor, most of these actually kind of look like dungeon stone, and then there's some outdoor tiles. So we saw that this is the inside of this house is 2 tiles, so we just randomly do this, and we grab one and put it down here as the entrance tile. Then we're going to put 1 tile above it as the other tile, sort of deeper into the house. So that's the first step, and this is all laid out in the rules. This algorithm is quite complex unless you understand the flow of combat. So I usually use this one, which is what is this, page 66. This is kind of a nice rundown of the steps of combat. Earlier in the manual, I'm sorry, after this combat thing, there's an example of combat if you need it. Earlier, there's some descriptions of the actual combat tiles and how to read them. That's kind of a little bit all over the place. Ideally, for me, it would be all in this combat section, but then separately, there is a reference card here with combat and the different actions that you can take. So we'll just step through this. So the start of combat, we already did. Shuffle the stack of zones and place them according to layout of the respected area, and then draw the enemy card. We did that kind of in reverse. Um, and then we're going to do the number of appearances. So we have our zones out. This is the inside of the house. Then we have our enemy card here. And when it says draw the number of appearances, at the top of the card, let me maybe zoom in here so I can point at stuff. You'll see there are different appearances based on the number of heroes that you have in your party. So we are currently 2 heroes, Dareth and Jarlek. So you're going to roll a white die +3 to see how many pygmies we're facing. With 3 heroes, it would be a black die +3, and with 4 heroes, it would be just 8 pygmies, which would be a lot of pygmies. So I'm going to grab a white die, and I'm going to roll it here in this little roller, and we are facing 1 pygmy. For this, you'll see there's a little Zeal symbol on here, which I referenced in one of the earlier videos. I won't talk about that yet, but it doesn't impact this number of appearances. So basically 3 + 1, so we're facing 4 pygmies. So in Tabletop Simulator, once you put down this enemy card, you can hit spawn creature standees. It'll go grab 8 standees from the bag to match your stuff, and you can look at it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all numbered. So we're going to grab the first 4 of these pygmies. I discovered it makes duplicates of these from the bag, so you don't have to worry. You can delete any that you're not using, or at the end of the combat, they're still in the bag. So these are the 4 pygmies we're going to face. And then you can use the standees here. There's standees for each of the heroes. I like using the minis just because I'm built that way. So we have our cleric with his burly shield and our pirate, very piratical. And yeah, so the way that this works, let's go back to the card. Maybe I'll walk through it. We just drew the number of appearances, so that's 4. Now place all enemies, figures, and tiles from lowest to highest number and their HPs. Then place the heroes. Okay. So the way that this works is you start with the lowest number enemy. So we'll start with number 1, and then you place that enemy first in the lowest numbered tile. This is relatively straightforward because we just have 2 tiles, but imagine you had like 5 tiles out here. You would look for the lowest numbered tile. So this is tile 1, this is tile 6, but remember these are randomly drawn, so you could pull out any distribution. And you start with the lowest numbered tile, you place 1, and then you go up to the next highest numbered tile, which in our case is just the other tile. You place another one. And then once you've gone through, so you've like placed as many as you can in all the tiles that are here, if you still have more, you go back to the lowest number and you place another one. And then you place another one. So this is, again, pretty straightforward with two tiles. But if you had more, you would just kind of be doing one by one through from the lowest to the highest when you're placing the enemies. And there are limitations on the number of enemies that can fit in a tile. It doesn't say it here. It's kind of buried back. I don't know. It might be on the enemy tile, but I think these are considered medium-sized enemies. There's different size enemies. So you can see here at the top, it says medium wolf warrior humanoid. So there are small, there are large enemies. I believe it's 3 medium enemies can fit in a tile at once. So for example, if we had a bunch, we would get to 3, and then we couldn't place any more here, and they couldn't even move in because the tile's full. So look for that rule. I don't know which page it's on, but that tells you the limitation of how many enemies can be in. Okay, so now we place our heroes, and if you remember, the entrance tile was the bottom tile here. So sometimes you'll have options, but in our situation, there's only one entrance tile. So the first decision that you have to make is who's going to be the main, and then who are the assists, if there are any, in terms of heroes. So your main is going to be sort of your tank, the person that the enemies are directly engaging with. They're going to be the person that'll be most likely to take hits, so it usually makes sense to choose someone that can take more hits. In our party, I think even though the pirate has slightly more HP, I think the cleric has better armor. So I will put the cleric in the main. So I'm taking this in. So every tile will have this little circle here with like a rune. I think this tile's color's a little bit messed up, but usually it'll look like this. It'll be kind of golden. That circle indicates the main. So you take your main and you put them there to indicate, okay, this is the main tank in this area, and then you can put in your other guys in anybody else that comes into the space would be an assist. And the assist, you can imagine like thematically, the main is the one that's like rushes forward and starts engaging with the pygmies in hand to hand, where the assists are kind of like around the edges. They might be people that are like firing in or casting spells or just trying to harry the group, backstabbing, etc. So this is going to be my setup. We have two pygmies here. We have our main. We have our assist. And this is the setup of the combat. So we have everybody out. Let's look at the next step. So, oh, we also have to set the HPs. That's pretty straightforward, but I'll do that real quick. So you have up here these little HP trackers. I just usually type the number. You can type 3, 3, 3, 3. Where did I get 3? When you're looking at the card in the upper left is the HP. Maybe just really quickly, I'll go through this layout because people look at this card sometimes and they're like, what is all this? We've already gone through a good amount of it. Let me just zoom in so I can point. So we have the appearances across the top. We have the HP over here. We have some keywords, medium wolf warrior, humanoid. Then there are some traits. This says immunity to poison, and they have a resistance to cold and death magic. They are shuffling, which I happen to know what this is. You could look up the keyword in the lexicon in the back. Shuffling means that they will, if there are heroes in other tiles, they'll kind of like rotate around. They won't just stay locked to the main that they're fighting. And pack tactics gives them more bonus damage if there are more pygmies in one location. Then this is a prey attack. So if you see that symbol there with the mouth, that's a prey attack. So it means if you roll, we'll see later, but if you roll a prey, then they'll do what's here, which is saying they will target heroes that are not currently poisoned. Then you have their abilities here, which you will roll to see what the ability does. All enemies of a certain type do the same attack. So pygmies, all these pygmies will do the same thing whenever I roll. Then you have your loot down here. This is 1 treasure and 2 XP. And then these are the defenses and saves that the pygmies have. So they're 2 slashing, 1 piercing, 1 bludgeon, and then 1 for all those saves. And that's everything that's on the card. Some cards will be more complex than this, some will be less. So I was doing that to indicate where I got the 3 from their hit points. And let's continue. So I think we're about to get into combat now. Sorry, my keyboard is a little bit giving me some Bluetooth delay, so it's swinging all over the place. Hopefully it's not making you sick. So the first combat round, something that's kind of interesting about this system is first combat round and subsequent combat rounds are different in structure. The idea is thematically, when you're getting in combat, the enemies are rushing you and they're attacking you, and they will generally have like what would you normally consider initiative. If you want to do anything before the enemies, then you need to have opener abilities, which are basically abilities thematically that are fast enough that you could do them before the enemies. So you see there under opener phase, it says hero may use opener ability, shift 1, or gain 1 zeal. So let's explain each of those. Let's look at our heroes and see if they have any opener abilities. I don't believe the pirate has anything. The pirate just loves shooting pistols. So I don't think the pirate has any opener abilities. Let's look at the cleric. Cleric eulogy is not an opener. I'm looking for that bugle. Okay, so you see here radiant light is an opener. It's a spell. I'm going to go through some of I think I already talked through in my first video, all the stuff. So if you want to like see exactly what this does, you can go back there. But it's basically saying it's an opener, and you can do a huge burning light and damage a bunch of dudes. So I'm probably not going to use this because I believe from my memory that if you're in combat and you try to cast a spell, you do so with disadvantage or there's some consequence. And I did choose the cleric to be my main. So um, I have the option to do this opener, but I'm not going to. The other 2 things it mentioned was we could shift 1. What shift means is just move. So if you're engaged, you cannot shift until you disengage. So in this case, because I'm the main and these 2 are attacking, I believe I'm engaged immediately. And so some of this, there are so many combat rules. Please, I may be saying stuff. I'm going to be giving you the high level. There will be individual things that I might err on, but uh, I don't want to shift anyway. I mean, they're fine together where they are right now. But you had so like the pirate could pivot up here, or as part of the opener. Uh, then the last thing I can do is I can get Zeal. And I think I probably talked through Zeal briefly earlier, but if you remember, Zeal is this symbol, and it allows you to use special abilities, sort of like enhance things on anytime you see a little Zeal symbol, that means you can spend it to do those actions. So this will allow me to actually get a Zeal token, which is different than when I was showing you the die here. That has a Zeal symbol on it. That means you can only use that Zeal during the action for which you rolled the dice. But a Zeal token you can put on your board here. You see you have 2 slots for Zeal tokens and 1 for heroic actions. Um, and so both my guys, remember the options, we could do an opener, we could shift one, or we could get a Zeal token. I'm just going to opt for our openers to get Zeal tokens because they're useful. I think also I don't know, it's like buried in the book under heroic tokens, but I think it says that you start with 1 heroic token per character. Um, so I will do that too. What's a heroic token? A heroic token essentially lets you take another action. So that I'll use that if we use it, but just so you know what that's for. And yeah, so let's see. I'm already getting lost. There are so many little rules. So we decided as our opener phase to just gain Zeal. So now we'll go to the enemy phase. It starts with enemy engagement. Enemies starting from the lowest number. Hang on just one sec. Ooh, apologies. I had just a little bit of a coughing fit, so I went off camera for a sec. But let's continue. So I was saying in enemy engagement, the enemies start from the lowest numbered zone and they shift toward the closest zone with heroes and engage the heroes. So what we would do is we would look through the zones. So the lowest numbered zone is here 1. So just look back for 1 sec. It says enemies starting from the lowest numbered zone shift 1 toward the closest. And there's a whole enemy order of play here. Again, I think this should perhaps be in the combat section because right now things are kind of scattered in a bunch of different directions. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But it gives a sort of graphic for the order that enemies take actions, sort of like initiative in most games. If I can't find it quickly, then I will just move on. I think I know it mostly, but the idea is that um, the lower numbered enemies start before. Here we go. So this is on page 43, in case you need to look up. They move according to the zone rotation and order number of play. Um, so it's basically saying medium enemies go before big ones, standard go before elite, lower zone goes before higher zone, and lower number goes before higher number. So what that means is you would start here in the lower zone, um, and you start with the lowest numbered 1. So we have enemies 1 and 3 in here. So enemy 1 would go first, and it will shift toward the adjacent zone with heroes in it, which is here, and it will engage my cleric. So we now have 3 guys on the cleric. Then we would continue with this guy, but he has nowhere to go, and he can't fit in here because we're at the capacity. So he would stay up here at number 3. And then these other ones are already engaged. They're already doing what they want to do, so they're all set. So that first step of enemy engagement is basically the enemies just shifting around. You'll kind of move through the zones and the order of enemies, and they will slowly move toward the closest zone with a hero and engage. It's basically they're just like all coming in toward you and gathering. So the next one is enemy activation. Enemy starting for the lowest. I'm sorry. Each enemy activates a fable, and then we'll head the end of the round. So we'll start back with the enemies in order. It doesn't really matter. There's 3 of them. They A neat thing about the system to streamline is in many games you would have each enemy activate individually. In this case, they all activate simultaneously and they all do the same thing, or the same action rather. So to figure out the enemy's activation, um, I think I just had that table up, so I'll go back to it. You're looking for this table, the of dice and the enemy die. This has your legend of what the enemy die does. But you basically grab both these dice. One die represents a number that indicates what type of attack they'll do on their enemy card, and the other one is a modifier die that maybe changes what they're going to do this turn. So you grab both of these, you roll them. You'll do this every time the enemies activate. And I got a 7 and a zone symbol. That is not ideal. So what that says here, if you look, is the top one there. It says the action now affects the entire zone. So normally these three guys would just be attacking my main and fighting him, and my assist, the pirate, would be off to the side and not bothered. But because they got this zone modifier, their number 7 attack will hit everybody. So let's see what number 7 is. Number 7 is vomit. Great. So these three pygmies are just going to vomit all over my dudes. Um, so how to read this? You see 5 to 7 there is vomit. Um, it is saying that this is against uh, what is that? Grit, a grit save, and it is 2 necrotic damage. And then if we take any damage, then we will take the effect, which is heroes exhausted and counter card of their choice. So basically, we had these 4 little guys. They were eating corpses. They obviously got some indigestion. They bum rush my cleric, but then they just start spewing vomit everywhere over both my guys. Uh, so now we go to how we interact with the attack. Depending on the attack, so you saw some of these other attacks, they'll say like the bite there is against piercing defense, pylon is against bludgeoning defense, vomit is against our grit save. So we look at our characters and we look at their grit save. The pirate has yellow grit save and the cleric has blue. So let's start with the cleric. The cleric's getting vomited on. So the interesting thing about this system is the enemies never roll to attack. You only roll to defend based on what your defend is. So cleric first, getting puked on. Um, and I rolled a 2. And this is maybe our first roll. So this is the 6 face of the die, as you can see there. This is the crit. So this is the highest amount of value and it crits. I mean, this may not be necessary for our case, but uh, that's saying we get to roll another die of the same tier. So grab another blue die, roll it. 4. So total, you total them up. We are at 4 save or defense against this vomit. The vomit is only 2 damage, but and now you may have to check me on this one. I'm used to like normally attacks. I think saves are the same, but there's mob and there's the mob rule. So you were probably thinking like, wait, you're getting attacked by 3 dudes. Why is it only? How does it make a difference if you're being attacked by 1 or 3? So the way it works is each guy beyond the original adds +1 to the damage. So it would normally be 2 damage for the first pygmy, then 3, then 4. So because 3 are attacking, it's 4 damage. And then unfortunately they have pack tactics as well. It's misspelled on this card, but normally it's not, which adds +1 if there are other pygmies in the area. So that's actually a lot. That's bad. That's 5. They do 5 damage. I only rolled 4. So I actually did get a little bit of, I didn't resist all the necrotic vomit, and my cleric took 1 damage. And so since I took a damage, I have to do the rest of the ability, which is hero exhausted and counter card of their choice. So I can look through here. We have our at will abilities. We have 2 encounters. We have mend wounds and bless weapon. What am I more likely to use during this fight? Because at the end of the fight, they'll come back, these abilities. So I think, bless weapon. So I could either bless the pirate's weapon, or I could heal. I'll maybe get rid of bless weapon. And then the pirate's probably going to get thrashed by this thing. I will roll a yellow, see what happens. So that is, another crit. I'm getting lucky at least. I mean, that's good because this is a lot of vomit. And I'll roll again. Oh my gosh, double crits. Oh, the pirate might be okay. And yeah, wow. All right, the pirate rolled 5. So the pirate takes no damage from the vomit, resists that vomit like a badass, and takes no damage. So I'm just going to do one turn with the heroes so you can see how that works. Um, there is a phase after what just happened at the end of the first round, so you would resolve any conditions, like if I got bleed or I applied bleed. You would end any effects that would end on the end of a round. You'll see here over on the board, whenever you get an effect, it may affect you just that round. It may be next round. This is sort of like when it will expire. So you'll get some things that expire at the end of combat, some that will expire next round, and then they move down to this round when they uh, when they a round passes, and then it will expire. But we didn't get any, so we're okay. Yeah, so let's go to the character phase just so you can see this how this works. So it says each character activates and may perform 2 actions. That's the action symbol, and as many reactions at will or instant in any order they choose. So we get 2 actions. What are the actions, you would ask? Well, they're on the back of the card, and they're also explained more thoroughly in the thing. But you have your attacks, you can do ability or spells, you can move, you can retrieve a backpack item, you can trade. Notice it says at the top, the basic attack can only be once per round, so you cannot spend both your actions to do 2 basic attacks. Um, and then you can, remove a condition. So you spend an action to just remove a condition that you have, gain a Zeal token, or you can flee. So let's see. We need to start clearing these guys out. My pirate loves shooting the firearm, so maybe I'll do that first. Um, so this is he's already got a black die for his pistol, and you use agility for ranged. So we have a black die and a blue die for shooting the pistol. Normally, when you're an assist, I believe when you attack into melee, you actually get advantage on the roll, or maybe you get a zeal. Uh, please look up the rule. But this doesn't apply because I'm doing a ranged attack. I think the idea is like if people are distracted and you're firing or you're attacking and then you can like you're kind of attacking their back and you have a benefit. But if you're firing and then that's not quite so easily. So this is an example. By the way, the conditions are here if you need to see them. They're on page 40. This is an example. I feel like this should just be in the combat section about how to do mains versus assists, but it's like I don't know where it is. I would have to like search with find text. I think it's like on when they describe the combat tiles or something. I don't even know. So I'm just gonna go with what I remember, which is I believe when I'm shooting in with the assist, I I'm just gonna go as if I don't have any effect just to display. So take a black die, take a blue die. Black die is the best die, and 1 blue die. And I'm gonna shoot one of these pygmies. Which one do I want to shoot? 2, 1, or 4. I will shoot number 2 because it's the closest. That does not matter. I'm just saying for fun. They're the closest on the tile. Uh, so I roll these. That was not an amazing roll. I have a zeal, so I can think about spending it here. I can use a zeal to apply burning, or I can use a zeal to reload. So whenever you see reload on a card, it means that you have to basically spend an action to reload this thing every turn. Otherwise, you can't use it again. So, yeah, or I could do an extra damage. So I did 3, and what is it? My shooting does what? It's a reflex save is how they defend against that. So their reflex save is 1. So they would currently take 2 damage. Um, I want to do 3 to kill 1. So I will use my firearms expert. I will spend a zeal here that says do 1 extra raw damage. So I can use this zeal token that I saved up, even though I didn't roll 1, and I can apply an extra damage. So then we did 4 damage minus 1 for the reflex save, but that's enough to drop this guy. Number 2 has 3 health, so that will take him to 0, and I can remove this guy. And then we'll do the cleric, and I will end this video for the moment. So the cleric is, oh, I should have done this in reverse order. So you can activate your heroes in any order. I just got so excited with the pirate shooting. So you can see here the eulogy for the pirate is a reaction to if you damage an enemy, then another ally gains +1, or I'm sorry, a dice increment. You can raise any one die by 1 tier on their attack until the end of the round. So it's better for the cleric to go first. If he damages somebody, then he can recite a eulogy and give the pirate a bonus. That didn't happen. So I'm going to attack. I'm just going to smashy smash, which is a blue die plus his strength is a white die. So I'll grab blue and white. And you got to say who you're attacking first. I will attack number 1. So blue and white. Here we go. Grab these, roll them. Okay, okay, another crit. This might be good. Move these things out of the way. So I'm currently at 2 damage. And what do I got? Another 1. Okay, we might be in the exact same situation. So 3 damage. But the Morning Star can do either piercing or bludgeoning damage. And they are resistant. No, they have both 1 defense to piercing or bludgeoning. So they would currently be taking 2 damage. I need to do 3, so I will do the same thing if I have the option. Whoa, something's going on. Yes, you see the Morning Star. I can do bleeding, I can do daze, but I can also spend a Zeal to do a extra damage. So similarly, I will spend my 1 saved up Zeal token that I got during the opener, and I will do an extra damage. So I did 4 minus the 1 defense that they have on bludgeoning, let's say, and do 3 damage. So I dropped, let's say, number 1. I think that's who I said I was attacking. So he goes down to 0 health, and move 1 out. Oops, wrong guy. And yeah, that's the end of, well, actually, that was just 2 attacks. So, yep, I will end here and then I'll loop back in the next video.